Okay, welcome to the Law and Society webinar. My name is Evan Laine. I'm the program director for that major for Philadelphia University. Often I get the question, what is law and society? So that is the purpose of the webinar today. It is not a pre-law major. That is just one of the small parts of it. My students do go on to law school, but they go on into politics, the United Nations, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, FBI, nonprofits, and other political organizations. But more importantly, law and society, we learn how to think in a different way to approach problems and problem solve. So, these are some of our goals. One, we're here to open your eyes, very effective there from Nicki Minaj. We're here to look at myths and stamp them out. More importantly, we're here to take all the different pieces, as you can see, the who, what, where, when, and why, and analyze them to determine why things are happening, why society exists, who's in control, who's vying for power. Often this is the first picture I show to my Law 101 class, which is the first course people in law and society take. What I say to them is, what do you see? And commonly they'll reply in what I call a first level thinking by saying, I see a protest. But I tell them, what do you see? And what we get after very careful evaluation is the class will start looking at the crowd, as I'm hoping you're looking at it, and see the crowd is mostly white. The crowd is mostly male. Now this is Washington, D.C., and I'll tell you this. Washington, D.C. is a very poor area. So mostly it's made up of poor minority members, and the other folks are usually very wealthy and usually white. So if we look at this crowd, we see a lot of white people. White people who are rich usually don't protest on their weekends. So we are posed with further questions. What do you see? Well, if they're not from Washington, D.C., then how'd they get there? And some astute students will say, well, they took a bus. And I say, okay, if they came in buses, they're probably not going to leave in that day. So that leads to this. They're probably going to eat. They're probably going to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And they're probably going to stay over, which means they're going to stay at hotels. So I say, again, what do you see? What's going on here, more importantly? So then usually the smarter students go, this costs a lot of money. So then the question becomes, where is the money coming from? Who's paying for the buses? Who's paying for the food? Who's paying for the hotel? And what is their agenda? And in this particular circumstance, we actually have an answer. This is a Tea Party rally supported by the Koch brothers. They're from Seattle and they're very rich and they have a particular political agenda. So when you're in my class and in my major, what you don't see is a protest. What you do see is why are they there, who's paying for it, and what is their agenda. You open your mind, you open your eyes, you see what exactly is going on. And what is going on is a struggle for power. That's the arm, power. And who is fighting for it, being the tigers on the right. Is it church versus state? Is it men versus women? Or is it gender versus gender, race versus race, sexual orientation versus sexual orientation? Those with power looking to keep it, those without it looking to get it, those with money looking to keep it, those without it looking to get it. That's how we analyze society, how it is organized, how it is kept in tow, why there isn't revolution, and why those in power continue to be in power. Those are the kind of things we look at. So then we come up to this. This is one of my favorite things. I call it the Magic Island. And I pose this question also in the first day to my Law 101 students, and I say the following. That's me. That's what I look like. And I say to them, I am your leader. And I look across the class, and the one thing we are blessed with in our majors is being very diverse in all ways. And I said, look at yourselves. You're all very different, but let's assume this. You're all miserable. And I come to you with this fantastic idea. I say, there's an island out there. It's a magic island. And if we go there, I'm telling you, this is true. Although we all will be different, we're all going to be happy. There we are, see us? We're all happy. And we're all going to work together. And no one's going to be too rich, no one's going to be too poor. We're all going to help each other raise our children. We're going to try to limit disease. and we will have a utopia on earth. And you folks being miserable say, you know what, let's go. And sure enough, it works. And we have this fantastic society where we have happy people like that nice guy on the beach over there. And it is just wonderful. But one day I'm old. There I am laying there and I am old. And I turn to my right hand, who is my assistant, and I say, listen, I have a secret. And he comes up closely to me and I whisper to him the following. I say, you know what? There never was any magic. And his reply is, oh my. He has a dilemma, you see. Does he tell? And that's a great question I give to the class, and it really gets to the essence of what we're talking about here. Do you tell? Do you perpetrate a myth while everyone's happy? Do you live a lie? And what is the allegations of living a lie? What happens to a society when it's based on a lie, but everybody's happy? And this gets into terrific conversations that we keep on coming back to during the year. Do we accept the truth or do we accept the happy lie? Do we look into things deeper? Do we delve as far as we can? Or should we go that far and maybe destroy happiness? And it's really interesting how the class usually states in the beginning, they say, oh no, don't say anything. But then after giving examples of lies that are perpetuated, that people live or governments live, then the class changes. What I love to do in the class is take the opposite position of my class in order to make them think on a different level. So we have many Magic Island moments in Law and Society. Okay, another thing I'd like to show you, go back a little, I want to give it away. We also look at how a criminal justice system exists in the United States. And I don't know if you know this, but most convictions is not on a CIS basis, but basically on eyewitness testimony. And eyewitness testimony is really, really bad. So I'm going to give you an example. Here you are looking out your front window, you hear a scream, and this is what you see. Who did it? Ask yourself, and what did they do? This is usually longer than people see something in eyewitness testimony. And more importantly, I gave you a clue that you were going to look at something. Most people have no idea that they're about to witness something. So, just for the fun of it, take a look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Who did it? Think about it. Here's your lineup. Write it down so you don't cheat. And the answer is, it's number 1. I have done this in all my crime and justice classes, and I can tell you usually 15% of the class get it right. That means 85% of the class gets it wrong. And when I tell you that most convictions, and I'm including death penalty convictions, are based upon eyewitness testimony, this should scare you. It should scare you very much. And by the way, if you're really sure of yourself, really, really sure of yourself, guess what? Usually you're wrong. Again, go back to that proposition I gave you that most convictions are based upon eyewitness testimony. Scary, isn't it? These are the type of things we talk about. I'd like to go on to this. It's another thing that really makes me crazy. Not about the politics of this, but about the question itself. I'll read it aloud. Most Americans think President Barack Obama's Health Care Reform Act will harm taxpayers and businesses while helping those directly threatened by lack of health care. This kind of question makes me absolutely crazy. And see, that's me. And do you know why it makes me absolutely crazy? Because I can guarantee you most of the people they asked had no idea what Barack Obama's health care reform law does, what it says, what its ramifications are, but they give opinions. They give opinions constantly on things. Students give opinions on things, and they better, in my major, base it on knowledge, not off the top of their head. But the fact, if they give an opinion on the Health Care Reform Act, they're going to know what it means, they're going to know how it came about, and they're going to analyze it. As we go back to the beginning, we look at the who, what, where, when, and why, and then you are capable of giving an opinion. Only then. And that is what my students will be when they leave Law and Society. They debate it, they analyze it, and then they give informed decisions because, as Ben Franklin said, an informed democracy is critical to a democracy working, and our students will have this skill when they leave. So wrapping this up really quick, who are we in Law and Society? This is who we are. We challenge what we see. We look at pictures like the one at the beginning and delve into what it really means. We debate what meaning is. We do not have any preset thought on anything. If you're conservative, I'll argue the liberal end. If you're liberal, I'll argue the conservative end. If you're in the middle of the road, I'll force you to make decisions. We do not accept it could be or it's possible. We create. We have a capstone program where we have created different charities. We have right now one I particularly like. A student is concerned with pit bulls. He thinks that they are unfairly discriminated against, and he's actually behind advocating rights for pit bulls. These are the types of things we do. On the other end, we've advocated against the voting laws, saying that they're unfair and that they discriminate against certain people in Pennsylvania as well as New Jersey. We advocate for human rights. We accomplish things. We go and actually do things. We serve in the community. We have internships in the FBI, in the UN, in the Attorney General's office, in the state of Pennsylvania, in the Philadelphia District Attorney's office, law firms, public policy organizations, so forth. We lead on campus. We persuade. We are all of these things. When you are a law and society student, you leave the major knowing how to have an opinion based upon evidence, not just off the top of your head. You know how to advocate that position in writing. You know how to advocate that position through oral argument. And finally, you leave here knowing what makes society work, how law and society come together to make democracy in America. I want to thank you for listening to this, and if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to email me. My email address is Laine, that's L-A-I-N-E, another E, at PhilaU.edu, and I'd be very happy to consider any of your questions. Thank you very much.